Hi everyone, I just wanted to say hello, bring you a little message. My name is Mike, and for 12 years I was the owner of this place, Blue Mountain Creamery. I can still remember the first time I walked through these doors with my wife and was touring this place when it was just a gray shell. Nothing had been built yet. And then seeing it all come together and seeing it be built, we put the whole thing together in about 30 days. It was quite shocking. I was just out of grad school. I was young. I was in my 20s. And I was just kind of a crazy person, like so many business owners who had an idea, and I managed to get it put together, managed to make it a reality. This looks like today. This is it. This is the last day of pulling out. I actually sold the business over a year ago, but some things happened with the buyer, and maybe you even have seen the news stories about some of the things that happened there. I didn't exactly end up getting paid for what I sold it for. Eventually, the guy who's been running things for the last year, he left. The landlord was very kind, had me come by to look things over, see if there was some things that I could pick up from what was left, and also help get rid of the things that were there. So what I'm doing is I'm gathering up the last of things that were left over here, so he doesn't have to deal with that. Gonna take these things over for donation. Gonna see if I can get this donated. Some of these other things I'll just have to have a junk guy come and take away. Now you might wonder, as the person who started this building, what am I doing here walking around and going through things like this? Why am I here? Well, there are so many small businesses in the United States, and people tend to think of the businesses, of course, that succeed, and businesses come and go. The truth is, the majority of all small businesses fail. Now, I was lucky. I ran my business for 12 years. They had some toughs up and downs, went through the recession, went through COVID, all sorts of things. Good times, good employees, bad employees. That's the life of being an entrepreneur. When my wife and I first came up with the idea to open this place, we knew that it's a scary thing to start a business, and you take on a really big burden. You know, I put up our house, our first ever house, as collateral for the loan that I used to be able to build this place out and furnish this place. And we imagined at the time, we said, if you're going to do something like this, right from the outset, you have to be willing to accept the worst case scenario. Like, what if it fails? What if it goes under? There's so many people where they do. And sometimes for things they couldn't predict, like COVID, where they put everything together, had their business ready, were just about to open it. COVID hits, they weren't able to open for months and months. Who knows? Maybe the whole thing never even got off the ground for something they couldn't have predicted. I didn't come out of this like some people do with this mountain of debt that they'll spend years and years paying off. I certainly didn't come out of it having enriched myself greatly monetarily from it, but I did certainly enrich myself with wonderful experiences, wonderful things that I was able to do, provide to people, wonderful experiences with my customers, my wholesale customers, my employees. Having this business did give me opportunities. It was extremely demanding and demanded a lot from me, but it also gave me flexibility to make choices at certain times that were important for my family that really helped us. And as I've been here and I've been going through this process of being the person who takes this place apart essentially and helps bury it, who says, yeah, I'm going to go through and pile up the stuff that's for the dumpster in one corner, and I'll pile up stuff for donation in another corner. I'll pile up stuff that maybe would be useful to someone in another corner. As I do that, I think the reason that I do feel good about it is I'm the person that brought this place into existence. I'm the one who brought it into the world, and I'm the one who created it. Even these walls that are behind me, I painted those walls. I spent years fixing this place up. I mean, even this right behind you, I painted these walls. I created and hung this big price board back here. Well, when we think of life, we always think of starting things. We always think of new ventures. We always think of beginnings and excitement. And we don't always think of the end of things. We don't always think of, well, you create something, but at some point you got to be the person to see the end of it too. You know, I mean, when you buy a dog, you're not just getting that brand new puppy, and you're not just getting all those wonderful days you're going to have with it. You're probably also, unless for some reason your dog outlives you, which isn't super likely, you're also buying that day where you have to say goodbye to that dog, where you have to bury that dog. Well, that is also the case with so many endeavors. When we take a job, you're also setting yourself up for the day where that job will end. If you start a business, you have in your future that day where your business will end. And one thing that I want to try and teach my own kids, which is why I've tried to show courage and a good attitude in the face of a situation like this, I wanted to show them that how we end things is as important as how we begin them. We have to begin them with courage. I wouldn't have been able to do this if I didn't have courage, if I didn't have optimism, if I didn't have an acceptance of what could happen. And now it's come time to prove that, to bring things to a close. You don't pull back at the last moment. This moment belongs to me just as much as those wonderful, exciting, sweet moments of starting things belong to me. This was part of the adventure that I purchased for myself by doing something like this. This is part of the journey. Part of the journey is closing the book. Part of the journey is saying goodbye. And that's a skill that we need to teach people. That's something we need to keep in mind. We have our days of our youth, but we're going to have the days of our age. We're going to have times when our career is growing, and where there's going to be times when our career is winding down. There's times when a place is humming and busy and vital, and there's people and excitement, and there's all this value in it. And then there's going to come a time where you've ripped the guts out of everything, and it's, being buried behind you. That's part of life. So when you look at where I am, and maybe even you look at this place, maybe like me, you remember it in its heyday. You remember it, all the fun experiences you had. Those are still alive. They're still alive in your memory. Those experiences were great. Yes, this is how life ends, with the closing down, with the shutting down. All things find their end. That's just part of life. For me, I want to thank anyone who ever had anything to do with me and my business. Thank you for being a part of it. Thank you for being a part of that story. It was always surprising. There were surprisingly wonderful parts. There were surprisingly difficult parts. I did some brilliant stuff. I did some really stupid stuff. And as I stand here ready to close the book on this part of my life, this chapter of my life, that was such a big part of, such a key part of my own story, I want to say thank you for the times.